Hi, everybody. Welcome to Football's Coming Home, a brand new VODCAST dedicated to international football and specifically Euro 2020. This is our very first show. How exciting is that? I'd like to introduce you to the panel. On my left, virtually, we have Christian. Hello, man.
Hi.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Excited.
Good to see you. Good to see you. And also we've got Gaz.
Hey, buddy. How's it going, mate?
Very, very good. We've just come off the back of an incredible England win against Austria 1-0. But before we get on to that, because tonight we're going to dissect the England performance. We're going to talk a bit about how England got on. We're going to talk about some of the highs and lows of tonight's performance, and we're going to touch on how England might do in the Euros this summer, which is just a few days away now, of course. Before we do that, let's get to know our panel a little bit. Christian, international football, we're all English lads here tonight. Maybe we'll be joined by some other nationalities throughout the tournament. But what's your first memory of international football?
So I can't quite remember if I'm pretty sure it's from Italian 90. I was quite young. I didn't really get too into football until I was maybe like 10 or so. So in Italian 90, I would have been 8. And I think I was given a video by somebody of the tournament, like a recap of the tournament. I didn't watch it itself, but I remember watching this recap video as if it was the real thing. And it was pretty amazing. Euro 96 would be the clearest big memory for me. It was obviously, over here, it was an incredible experience. I think it was probably one of the first times I'd ever shed a tear over football, a heartbreak at the end. But yeah, I'd have to say probably Euro 96. And it was an incredible experience. Like the first time I'd ever been sort of really captivated because the whole country came together in a way that I'd never really seen before. Everyone, wanted the same outcome, which was really bizarre. But in my experience, it was incredible.
Yeah, what a team we had back in Euro 96. Gaza, Shearer, some phenomenal players. And big old Adams at the back as well. I mean, God, those were the days, right? Same question to you, Gaz.
So for me, it was very clearly Italian 90. I've been into football for a couple of years, but it was quite sort of casual, watch a game here and there, never really aware of the bigger picture. But that summer, me and my younger brother, we discovered it on the TV. We started watching it. My dad was never really into football. It was my uncle who got me into football. And so me and my brother used to stay up watching these games. And it was just, the reason why it's always stuck with me is because almost a soap opera of it. It was just, we're written off, no chance. We come through all those games, the Cameroon game, the Belgian game, last minute goal from Platt and all that. And it all built up to that kind of climax of the West Germany game. And you go into it. And at this point, as a 12-year-old lad, you think no one can beat England, with the best. You've never seen anything before like that. And to actually lose it had a profound effect on me, devastating scenes, and and it was from then on that, then I started really getting into it, the bigger picture, the bigger world of football, and really getting kind of addicted to it, essentially. The love affair began basically with that. And always thinking back to that team. And I even, to this day, I love that team, that 1990 England team. I love that team. And I still regularly watch the highlights as well. And a lot of my mates were in the same boat. And every time the England tournaments roll around, just like this one, you start thinking, could it be, our year? But have to wait and see.
Just say, were you England introduced you to football then, really, before club football? It was international football? Basically,
yeah. My uncle used to take me down to the Arsenal games quite a bit from probably about 88 onwards. I'd probably be 5 or 6 games at the time, but it was only ever, I'm going to my uncle's house, so we're going to watch a football match at the stadium. It was never, right, who the players, what we're doing and all this. And it was that summer that really kick-started everything for me. And from then on, like anything about football, I was all over it, reading it, watching it. It just, the way it just absorbs into you, don't it? It just takes over your life, basically, as we all know now, for better or worse, actually. It's like a marriage, really.
Sure is. I had a slightly different introduction to football, actually, especially international football. So the World Cup in 1994 was my first international tournament. Of course, England weren't even there, and I think it was the Ireland-Italy game, and Ray Houghton just scoring that incredible goal in the United States.
Yeah, yes, Italy, weren't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe like that would be my first memory. I'm thinking of England memories, but yeah, '94 for me was I just got a TV in my bedroom, like a little tiny little thing it was, and I would my friend had an Ireland shirt, and yeah, it was like I had to follow him. Like England didn't have a team in it, but I fell in love with Baggio, Roberto Baggio. I was like mesmerised by him. I was devastated when he missed the penalty in the end. But yeah, probably would say '94 actually as well. Because they the Ireland side beat Italy, didn't they? 1-0 if I remember. Yeah. What a game that was! Brilliant experience.
And my dad actually came home from Brazil. He was working in Brazil at the time. He came home with a Romario shirt as well, and I just remember that. It was just a wonderful memory, '94. And of course, England finally kind of got back into international football just 2 years later, hosting Euro '96. But that's a nice introduction to us. This is a brand new podcast, VODCAST, whatever you want to call it, as mentioned. If you want to subscribe to the channel, please do so. We're going to be coming to you live throughout the Euro 2020 tournament with match analysis. We're going to be talking about our favourite players. We're going to be doing debates on various topics that come up during the tournament. And if you want to subscribe on to our YouTube, by all means, but if you want to follow us on social media, you can do. You can find us on Facebook and also on Twitter. Just look for Football's Coming Home podcast. We're going to move now to our main topic of tonight, which is England and England-Austria. That's right, it's our match reaction section. England-Austria. So it finished England 1, Austria 0. It's fair to say it was a fairly mundane affair. I hope I'm not going to offend anyone for saying that. Surprised anyone kind of kept awake. But it was a nice run out for the players. And I think if we start with the lineups, I think it was probably one that was quite of interest to a couple of players in there, that one of which won't even be making the trip into the Euro 2020. Or will he? I guess that's a question coming up. So we started with Pickford in goal, Trent Alexander-Arnold as right back, Trippier left back. So maybe when we think of those 4 right backs, in fact, actually it's 3. Connor Cody and Tyrone Mings in defence, Rice, Bellingham, Grealish in midfield, Lingard, Saka and Kane. What do we think of Lingard starting, given that he isn't expected to be in that 26? Starting with you, Christian.
It's a really difficult one. I was following it online, like people were discussing it, and I think he's had a great season, and I think he can count himself really unlucky not to actually be going. I'm not a fan massively for club reasons, but I felt like he had a really good argument to be there. The issue for me is I appreciate there's players that have obviously been given extended time off due to the Champions League. A few players had illness, if I'm recall Sancho suffering from an illness. But if he's not going to the competition, utilise your squad for me. Whether that means moving players about, shuffling players about, because when the tournament starts, that's what your options will be. So it's difficult, but on the flip side of it, maybe it's just a bit of a reward, although maybe bittersweet, to give them some minutes and give them the opportunity to get another cap. But yeah, it's a difficult one. I probably wouldn't have done it. I think I would have utilised the squad that I had. Even if it meant shuffling some players around, maybe 1 or 2 out of position or whatnot. But I think that if that's the squad you're taking, you have to be prepared for all situations, and Lingard won't be an option. Well, depending on what happens with Trent and who they replace, you'd imagine he won't be an option going forward. But maybe that was the argument for it, the fact that any injuries, it's the last chance for them to maybe stake a claim. So it's a tough one, really.
And that might have been a wise decision, given what happened with Trent Alexander-Arnold at the end of the game. I did find it funny for those who watched on ITV Sports today. The commentators were debating on whether he might have said that his hamstring or whatever had gone where, I mean, there was absolutely no reason to consider that might have been something he said when you couldn't hear what he said for starters. It was the most bizarre 2 seconds or 3 seconds on TV for the evening. But Gareth did bring on most of the, if not all of the players that won't be making it to Euro 2020, Gaz. Given what happened with Trent, is that a good strategy? Because I suppose they've all got minutes in the legs now.
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, if Trent is out, I think the natural. I mean, for me, look, if we talk about the squad, I don't like the fact we've got 4 right backs in there, and I think you look at Lingard, and he should be in. You know, he's a goal scoring midfielder, kind of player you can bring on, grab a goal late on. You know, we spoke earlier, didn't we? Italian 90, David Platt comes on, scores that goal in the last minute. Lingard's similar player arriving in the box. So I thought that. Was it a sympathy cap that he gave it in there at the end? I don't know. In a way, I don't know why they did that. But you're right. He's had a chance to sort of see these players today. If Trent does have to pull out, he knows that all of them had a game, you know, at least 20 minutes in the tank to choose from. So, yeah.
I wonder whether he's going with this whole concept of 4 right backs. Is it now technically, if you take Trippier as a right or a left back, you could argue it's kind of a 3 and a 3, right?
You could equally, if depending on the system he goes with, it's a 3-5-2, which some people are saying he may well do. And you've got potentially Saka as the third wing back on the left side. But yeah, I mean, just to touch on the point you just made there, the more I think about it, he knows the place. He knows Lingard. He knows what they offer. He's seen them all. I don't think those extra minutes would have helped him make a decision either way on who would be a replacement if there is an injury to one of his main squad players. So I think it's probably a bit unnecessary, really. I think he'll know what he's got. So for me, I think I would have what I said earlier.
Yeah,
utilize the squad. Yeah, I don't see really any benefit to it, other than maybe just sort of a thank you sort of thing, or sorry you're not included, but I'll run out tonight.
Still in the plans for afterwards. Yeah.
So Austria tonight, England really huffed and puffed in that first half and failed to break them down. It really failed to get beyond the final man at all in that first half. Part of me was thinking that Kane was coming into midfield just a little bit too often. And whilst Lingard was trying to get beyond the final man, I think he was struggling. And to a certain degree, I think Saka was struggling in that first half to get beyond the final, beyond the defence as well. Why do you think we huffed and puffed so much in that first half? And what do you think we lacked?
I think that's what you were saying there is right, Stu. I think Kane was doing his usual sort of hero ball that he does for Spurs.
Yeah.
To be fair to him, he does it well for Spurs, but he doesn't need to do that in this team, does he? Because you've got Saka, you've got Grealish, you've got these guys there. They're specifically there to put it on a plate for him. So he was probably doing too much, clogging that up a little bit. I think they were sitting quite deep as well, in terms of trying to be on the shoulder. There's no space behind. But yeah, I think you're right about Kane.
I wonder if it's instruction, though. I mean, that we're talking about a top-level player. I wonder if it's an instruction for him to drop in there. I was talking to Stu before we came on, and obviously at Spurs, he has either side of him, two electric players, Bell on his day, Son, who is a top player. So when he does drop deep and clog that area, if you will, it does create space for those wide players. Maybe they're better equipped to utilise the space that he creates than the players we have in the England setup. So for me, it's not something that I see working. I think that he needs to be further up the pitch if we're going to have any success. Have to trust the players. This is provided it isn't an instruction. If it's an instruction from the manager, then I don't really understand it. But if not, then he has to trust the players. He's got an abundance of talent that will be looking to create chances for him. So he needs to sort of play the width for the box and stay high because I saw some of the analysis after the game, and they were showing he was sort of occupying spaces that were taking a lot of our play was breaking down as a result of it. He was dropping into areas where Grealish was looking to play, and that was drawing players too close to Grealish, and it just sort of fizzled out a lot. So, I think that's something that needs to change. But I do think it's an instruction that was my gut feeling. I think he's been told to do it.
I thought it was interesting because he almost was playing in a similar kind of hole as to Grealish at times, and with Lingard and Saka being asked to play the furthest forward. But both of those in the first half were struggling to break down the Austrian defence. In the second half, however, I really felt like Grealish came into his own and was able to connect far better with Saka. I think those two as a part. I mean, look, we're all. I should probably disclaimer, guys, for those watching. We're all Arsenal fans here, so I was quite impressed how Gaz was able to keep a straight face talking about Kane for so long just then. However, Grealish and Saka really work as a partnership. Those two really work. And I guess the obvious question is, how important are they as a pair for England this summer? And I don't even know whether Saka is a starter for England. My gut feel says he's not.
Even Grealish. No. Grealish probably isn't.
Maybe not, yeah.
But
those two are together as a pair, I think, really work. And if I was Southgate, at some point in every game, especially the big games, he needs to get those two somehow functioning together on the pitch.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I don't see Saka as a starter. As much as I'm a fan of him as a player, I think that if you look at the options ahead of him, I think Foden's ahead of him. I think Foden's a phenomenal young player, really, really. And the season he's just had, City being the winners of the Premier League, I think that that would be his position for me. Then it's about who you choose to fill the central role. And on the right hand side, if he goes with a 4-2-3-1, personally, I would have Grealish in there. I think that he, as you said today, he wasn't impressed early on, but he really did grow into the game and he started to dominate it. He felt his way into it, and he's a player that's gonna win you a lot of fouls. He always draws players around him and he makes things happen for other people. The area I can't decide is on the right. I think that I haven't watched enough German football to comment on Sancho. I know there's a lot of hype around him. Since we had less access to the Champions League and whatnot these days, and I don't watch it as much as I used to. Maybe because Arsenal.
The word is he's had a fantastic season over there.
Yeah, so
that's what they're saying. I mean, he could be the guy.
Yeah, and if he can, there's no reason that he shouldn't be. I mean, if he's playing for one of the top teams in that league and they're in the Champions League, so for me, then absolutely he should. The position should be his, because I think it gives, I know what type of player he is. It gives England balance. You've got a bit of directness because Foden and Grealish are both players that like to sort of play in pockets and make things happen for other players, whereas he's someone that's obviously more direct, likes to run directly at players, and it's also so that would be the option I'd go with. But because I don't think that you can play anyone else out there. I think moving Grealish out there takes away from what we're offering. So Rashford's obviously an argument for the left, but he hasn't had his form hasn't been fantastic at times this year. But I do like him as a player, I must admit. I do. I think he,
Grealish is the one. He's the one player that we've got that makes you, even tonight, boring, turgid game that we've just watched, whenever he picked the ball up, especially that first 15, 20 minutes of the second half, there was something there that got you, didn't it? You thought, wow, here we go. It gave you that feeling. That's what we watch football for.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And he's the man for me.
You only have to look at the opposition, and by about the 50th, 55th, 60th minute, they had maybe two men on Grealish at all times. The moment he got the ball, they were kicking. Well, they were kicking him in the first half, but it became more ferocious as the game wore on.
It was a penalty, wasn't it? Before Saka scored, he got taken out there.
Yeah, I thought the referee was incredibly lenient for about 80 minutes, and then he kind of lost his way a little bit. But they were onto Grealish, and that's. Do you know, when I was watching him tonight, I saw a bit of Gazza in him, the way Gazza used to play. The ball sticks to Grealish, and he looks so at home in an England shirt. He really does. Definitely deserves to be. I mean, I would say on the plane, they're not going far, are they? They go to Wembley, but on the plane to the Euros, metaphorically speaking, it definitely deserves to be there. And I'm so delighted to see Saka take his goal so well tonight.
Yeah.
And, that was a fantastic
Very
team
tight
goal.
angle. Very difficult finish.
I tell you what, as well, the ball he played through for Calvert-Lewin was exceptional as well. On his weaker foot, really, I think we should have done better with a chance. He's held the ball too long there, Lewin, but that was a really, really, really impressive pass.
Every tournament, there's one player in the squad who's not seen as a starter at the outset, and they play their way in.
Yeah, that's true.
Could
that
be
is really true.
Could be Bellingham.
Bellingham, that's a really tough one to call, isn't it? The midfield too. Like if you're playing a 4-2-3-1, what do you think? Like, Stuart, have you?
I thought Bellingham was good tonight. I thought there were times where we needed a little bit more strength in that midfield. But it's a friendly. It's very difficult to gauge. In fact, we'll look at the options in a minute when we get on to that, whether England can win the Euros or at least stand a chance. By the way, England are second favourites to win this tournament. Can you believe? Can we just talk about Calvert-Lewin for a minute? A guy who I rate at Everton. I think he's a phenomenal striker. I think he's really improved leaps and bounds over the last 12 to 18 months. How on earth can a man of that size get up 6 foot in the air from a standing position? How does he do that?
Vertical, He's just a pure athlete, isn't he? Pure athlete.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, as I said earlier to you, the only player I think I've seen with that sort of leap was Ronaldo. He's from a standing position has exceptional leap. But it's freakish, isn't it? And to give away a free kick as well, I thought it was really unfortunate. Like, is it dangerous play? It's
the old Peter Crouch syndrome. Gives a free kick every time he jumps just because of the size of him.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose he caught him with his foot, so I suppose there is an argument that it is technically dangerous play, but he wasn't intentional.
No. Yeah.
And talking of dangerous play, I mean, not so much dangerous play, but injuries. We saw Trent Alexander-Arnold limp off on the close to the full-time whistle. We mentioned it earlier. Looks potentially like he might be out of the tournament. That's the rumor. We'll find out the next day or two. We also saw the 6. Can we call them banished players? That's a terrible term to use. But if you were to replace Trent Alexander-Arnold right now, which of the 6 would you pick to replace? And would you go with Jesse Lingard, given that he was a starter?
Yeah, I'd slot him in. It's just another option midfield. Imagine Arnold drops out and he calls up another right back.
I mean, the only one you maybe say would be White, because he's played at right back and centre half as well for Brighton. But I'd have to go with Lingard. I think he's just. I think he's more of a goal scorer than anyone else we've got in the midfield.
Yeah, he can pop up.
He is. He's just got that about him. He pops up in little places.
And I'm like you on this, Chris. Actually, I don't necessarily rate him as a good player necessarily, but what I do recognise is that he's in good form right now.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what matters at this moment in time. So
it's not so much him as his ability. It just pissed me off when he moonwalked at the Emirates. But no, I think he's in a really good season. I mean, it's been massively unfortunate to miss out. I appreciate we've got an abundance of talent in the attacking midfield area.
Yes, we have.
I think that if Trent can't make it, we don't need another right back. If you've got Trippier, Walker, and who am I missing out? Who's the third right back?
Bring the squad up.
Sorry, James. Yeah,
James.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, there's no need for another right back there, is there?
There isn't. I would like to make a shout, or a case at least, for Ward-Prowse, because I think he's been incredible for Southampton. And I actually think if there's an area where we could be lacking, it's in central midfield. And Ward-Prowse can do a job, I think, that both Bellingham and Henderson can do. And there's doubts over Henderson's fitness. He may not even make the tournament. There's a possibility.
Well, he's a different sort of player, isn't he? He's sort of player that he's quite safe, recycles play quite a lot. He's someone that's quite composed, and we don't really seem to have that type of player. Rice is more of a sit-in player. Bellingham, I was really impressed with him as well. I think he looks a top player. Incredible that he's out in Dortmund. I mean, it's what they're doing.
How's he only 17 as well? We look at him. Bloody hell.
He'll be at fairly soon, you'd imagine.
Should be playing the under 21.
What were you doing when you were 17? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Watching England.
But yeah, he's I think Ward-Prowse is a shout. I just think that I don't know when he's going to feature ahead of the players that are ahead of him. The issue is if Henderson doesn't make it. That is an issue. But I think, you mentioned coming onto the squad in a bit, so I don't know if it's the time to have that conversation now or not. But you're looking at the first two. I mean, if he does go with a 4-2-3-1, and will it be the two that started today? Rice and Bellingham. If it's not Henderson, obviously, if he's not fit, which it is a big risk taking him. It's a big risk.
Well, let's move on to that now. Let's do squads. So let's take a look at the England squad. So this is the 26, which Gareth has picked. So 4 right backs, or 3 right backs and 1 left or right back, I suppose you could argue. Walker, Alexander-Arnold, James and Trippier, Shaw and Chilwell on the left, Maguire and Mings, Stones and Cody in central defence. I guess the first question is, who's he going to pick as starter? Is it, as BT Sports suggested here, Walker, Stones, Maguire and Shaw? I'm not so sure,
I think it is. I think, for me, that's going to be the back 4 there. I mean, I think the argument is between the left backs. Chilwell's just won a Champions League at Chelsea, and he was really, really good in the final as well, actually, to be fair. Yeah. I think that's the argument there, but I do think that it would be Maguire and Stones. I think that they're the most experienced. Well, I wasn't not a massive Mings fan. I do think that his athleticism is something that we lack, because there's not a lot of pace between those. Actually, to be fair, neither Shaw nor Chilwell, Maguire or Stones are particularly quick. So he's definitely got a lot of pace.
Left-footed, which is a rarity, which I like. Yeah.
Who would be your starting back 4?
I dislike Maguire. I don't really rate him at all. I think it's comedic, to be honest, that he's seen the way that he is and the money that's been paid for him. But he's going to be in. I would personally have Mings on that left side. I just love a left-footed centre back. Something about that aesthetic, the angles and so on. So I'd start him for his pace. I think him and Stones could be a great partnership, to be honest. But I think that he will go with Stones and Maguire. Yeah. I think we're very fortunate that Stones has actually got back to his best this season, because imagine if he hadn't.
Yeah.
What would we have centre backs wise? We'd be struggling. So.
See, I think he's going to go with 3 at the back. I think we'll go 3-5-2. I don't know. It's just my gut feeling. I think
he likes Walker at centre back as well, though. Sometimes, don't he? So.
Right, so yeah. Well, I mean, that's the tournament way, isn't it? Keep it tight and then try and nick one, which is, given the amount of attacking flair we've got, we'll come on to that next. Yeah. You'd kind of want a bit more, I think, from the squad. What about the right and left back situation, Christian? Who starts?
So I think it will be Shaw. But you could toss a coin for me between the two. I do like both, to be honest. I think Shaw's resurgence has been, really encouraging from an England perspective, because there was such a lot of hype around him, and then he sort of was unfortunate of injuries and fitness and whatnot. Right side is really interesting, because it's assumed that Arnold isn't going to make it. You've got Trippier, who has just won La Liga. You've got James, who's just won the Champions League. And you've got Walker, who's just won the Premier League. So they're all playing at the top of their game. It's a really, 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 really difficult one. I'm probably good. Don't know. I'd probably toss up between James and Walker. Although I thought Trippier did well tonight at left back, I wouldn't. I'm not a fan of a right-footed left back at all.
No.
But he's good from dead balls. Trippier. If you remember, we all thought we were on our way when he smashed that free kick in. But I'd probably go. Do you know what? I'd go James.
I'd go James.
I'd go James because I think he's physically more imposing. I know Walker's pace is electric, but I think James is a better footballer than Walker.
I think James is the best of the lot, looking at that list.
Yeah.
What about midfield?
Brilliant in the Champions League final, wasn't he?
A phenomenal player. I think, again, another grower really over the last 12 months.
He's a big lad as well.
He is, but he's very athletic. Midfield looks, for me, hence the point of Ward-Prowse, looks a little bit light. Mount, Rice, Phillips, Henderson, Bellingham. I mean, it looks as though he's going to go Mount, Rice, and Henderson, but probably Bellingham for at least the first game. Guys, any advance on that?
Yeah. No, I'd agree. I'm not sure where Phillips gets a look in. I think he's literally the 26th man. Grealish, of course, I think you'll probably see him more central, to be honest, anyway, unlike in the graphic there.
Yeah.
I'd prefer him to be there, that's for sure. But yeah, but beyond what's on there, Henderson, is he even fit as well? I mean, that's got to be a question mark, surely.
Yeah. And I think on that left-hand side, I mean, they've got Saka, Rashford and Foden. Foden and Grealish are surely going to compete for that central berth, aren't they?
Yeah.
See, I like Foden from the left. From the left. He's played there for City. I think that for me, he would be the starter on my left, no question. And then Grealish at 10, and Sancho for right. And I'm jumping ahead of myself here. We're talking about the central players, but yeah, that would be my three there. Centre mid. I think it'd be the two that started today, and I think Mount would be the one for me that wouldn't be the automatic start. But Southgate's a big fan, isn't he? Of Mount?
Yeah,
he's a big fan. So whether it's what I'd pick or what he'd pick, what he's going to pick. He may well line up with that three. To be fair, as you've said there, it may well be that Mount, Rice, and Henderson, and then Foden, Kane, and Sterling. Not with the traditional 10, but more sort of how City play with that. With the three sort of flat midfielders, and then Kane dropping in a similar way to De Bruyne. De Bruyne plays as that false nine. Maybe that's what he's looking for.
I'm not sure they've got this right, because I think Sterling will play off the left, and I think Sancho will play off the right with Kane up front. Okay. Could be wrong. I could be wrong. Gaz, who'd be your front three?
Saka. I'd have Saka on the left, Kane central, and Sancho on the right.
Yeah.
Simple. That's what I'd go with. I think, as a general point about the squad, I think it's quite a novelty, because a lot of the time, a couple of days after the squad's been announced, we're all debating about who should have been in and who shouldn't be in. I don't think there's much debate about who should and shouldn't be in. It's more about how you're going to use that squad. Because I think it's a fantastic squad, apart from the one area we haven't touched on, which is the keepers, which I think is a horrific bunch of keepers. Yeah. When you think of the quality we've had in goal for England over the years, there's been times where there'd be 4 or 5 keepers that you literally couldn't choose between. When you think of Nigel Martin, Tim Flowers, Dave Seaman, and all these guys, it's horrendous to see what we're reduced to at the moment. Old, T-Rex, Pickford, and Henderson.
It was quite worrying to see Godfrey play that back pass tonight, given they both play for the same club. And you'd think they'd have a little bit.
And what is it about Pickford's goal kicking technique? It was sprinting up to kick every little ball today. Sprinting. Yeah. I don't get it.
I do think we're weak. I mean, Pickford's got a camera moment in him for sure. I think I remember that a few years ago he made a top stop before they scored from the corner.
That's it.
It was an incredible stop. Really, really was, but I don't trust him.
No, he's got the ability to make a world-class save, but I think he's also got the ability to make a world-class ricket as well. Yeah. And I think that's the issue. But we've always kind of had that in England goalkeepers.
Yeah, true.
Ever since the days of Dave Seaman, really.
That Sam Johnston guy from West Brom, I like him as a keeper, but then you realise he let 74 goals in for West Brom. Yeah.
He's not gonna. If they haven't featured regularly for England, he's not going to be putting in number one, and it'll be Pickford, won't it? Yeah.
Quick mention of Austria. We saw them tonight. I think it's fair to say they've got very little going forward, but they're actually quite steady at the back. I must say, I felt that Marcel Sabitzer is their best player by an absolute country mile. And what a player he is too. I mean, he played today kind of on the right-hand side of I think the front three, and he just looked really good. But they kind of moved. He almost played central alongside the striker today at times. And he's a player for me. He's a top player.
Really
yeah, he's a great player. I think that I wasn't too impressed with the way they went about it. I think a game before a tournament, and they were kicking lumps out of us, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think that not necessary in what the game stood for. It didn't need to be that way. But in terms of their players, he's a stand-up by a mile. Yeah, he was
rubbish kit, by the way, as well. I mean, what was that? It didn't even have a badge on it. I think it was just a load of t-shirts off the back of a lorry, weren't it?
I didn't even notice it.
Training kit, guys. Guys, let's round this off. England, this is the first time, as far as I can remember, where England have been one of the two favourites to win a tournament.
Yeah.
And France will obviously be the outstanding favourites to win this tournament, and for every reason that they should, because they've got some world-class talent in every position. In fact, I think, we talk about our squad depth. I think they've got top talent in maybe 2-3 players in every position.
Yeah.
However, is there a case to be made that France have got tough opposition in their group? Is there a case to be made that England can go as far as it did or further than the World Cup 3 years ago now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I think that we've got a really, really, really good group of young players, and it's about getting them to click. So if the manager has the confidence to be brave and set us up on the front foot to go at teams, then I think we've got a good chance. Winning it's tough. I think it depends on sort of how things work out for us, but I think that we've got a chance. Definitely got a good shot of getting all the way to the final. But France, it's hard to see past France. Portugal as well, I think they've got a good side. I know they weren't great tonight. Really, really weren't great tonight. But France, for me, player for player, I mean, you said their depth is ridiculous. They could have 2 top 11s. And you look at the players that don't even make the squad. It's frightening. So yeah, I can't see past them, but I definitely think we've got a chance. It's just hard to see past that quality.
For me with England, it's really it's a very important tournament actually, because I think I look at the squad, I see a lot of very, very good young players, and I see it as being the start of something. So let's see how we get on in this tournament. If we don't do very well, then you've got to look at the manager, I think, because it's so important that we have the right manager for this group of players over the next 2, 4, 6 years. It's vital, because we can't waste another golden generation, if that's what you want to start calling it, like we did.
A French man that's good at the job.
Yeah. He'd be perfect. In all honesty, I think he'd be great. But let's see. Let's give Gareth a chance.
Yeah, definitely.
See how we get on.
He's got a strategy. I think you can work out, whether you agree with it or not, you can work out from that squad. He has got an idea in mind that he's going to deploy. Yeah. And he's been in enough tournaments, both at under 21 level and I'm trying to think of the right term. England full international level now to know what to do in these type of tournaments. So I think you've got to give him this tournament. Let's see where we get to.
Euro 96 memories.
Well, yeah, he doesn't have to take a penalty this time, though.
Oh, dear.
Which is a great way to end. Guys, I'd like to say a massive thank you,
thank you.
For my panel, for those who've tuned in. Appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell button, which means we tell you when we go live, and follow us on social media, available on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Big thanks to Gaz.
Cheers, Stu.
And big thank you to Christian.
Thank you for having us.
And we will see you around. Bye-bye for now.